Civ 7 has the potential to be the best multiplayer Civ game Firaxis has made yet. Eventually. As it stands, the game feels incomplete. There's obvious quality of life features that are missing. For instance, the UI lacks critical information like the exact cost of each technology and the exact progress on whatever is being produced. If I see a wonder that says it'll take 5 turns to complete, I have no way of knowing whether or not moving a resource to that city will cut the production time down to 4 turns. There's no way to search the map like there is in previous Civ titles, you can't skip the animations for opening and closing various menus, and there isn't even a quick movement option to skip the animation for moving units. In particular, these last two issues are killer for multiplayer, as they drag out the duration of the game immensely, easily adding over an hour of playtime to a full-length campaign. While you can queue up moves during some of the unit animations, others will lock you out of performing actions entirely until they've completed. While I could go on and on about the problems with Civ 7, I think you've probably already heard of most of them from other YouTubers. What I want to talk about isn't how bad Civ 7 is now, it's how good Civ 7 could be once it's received the care it deserves from the developers. I believe that this game has the potential to easily be the best multiplayer experience of any Civ title released so far. Before I get into praising the parts of the game that I like, a full disclosure. I did receive a copy of the Founders Edition of the game for free one day before it launched. I have not received any other support from 2K or Firaxis, and all of the thoughts contained in this video are my own. Among all the new ideas Civ 7 brings to the table, the most transformative is undoubtedly the age system. Dividing the game into 3 separate ages, all of which have their own legacy victory conditions that players have to compete to earn points in, is actually a rather genius idea. One of the best parts about this system for the multiplayer experience is that we finally have the ability to play games with a variety of lengths while still having satisfying victory conditions. Let me explain. In Civ 6, free-for-all multiplayer games consisting of skilled players playing with a turn timer could take anywhere from 4 to 6.5 hours to reach an actual victory screen. However, the game length could also be as short as 2 hours in cases where one player is running away with the game and people agree to concede. This creates a problem. The average game length was generally around 3.5 hours, but in order to play a Civ 6 game, players had to set aside a full 6 hours just in case the game went the full distance. Civ 7 solves this problem by allowing players the option of playing games that consist of either a single age, 2 ages, or all 3 ages. Once Firaxis adds the ability to skip all of the time-wasting animations, I believe the Antiquity Age could take just an hour and a half. An Antiquity Age plus Exploration Age could be concluded in around 4 hours, and a full campaign could take around 6.5 hours. Furthermore, people could also choose to start in the Exploration Age or Modern Ages and play from there, if they so choose. The nice thing about this is that players can now choose the amount of time they want to commit to playing a game. A year from now, when Civ 7 has had its pain points fixed and received some DLC, I could easily see myself playing any of these formats depending on how much time I feel like committing to a game on any given day. Furthermore, I actually like the feel of single-age games. When playing a game in the Antiquity Age where the winner is simply the player with the most legacy points at the end, there's far more volatility and comeback potential than there ever was in previous Civ titles. Not only is it possible to generate a large number of legacy points very quickly all at once towards the end, it's also possible to reduce the number of legacy points other players have earned as well. For instance, if you pillage a player's libraries, they may become unable to display their codexes. Even if they have enough codexes to complete the Science Legacy path, they won't actually receive the points if they're not able to display all of them on the final turn. However, this sort of end-of-era cheese isn't as effective in full-length campaigns. In those games, the legacy points in the Antiquity Age and the Exploration Age aren't actually a prerequisite for winning the game. While players receive useful bonuses after the age transitions based on the number of legacy points they've earned, the overall winner of the game will be decided exclusively by who completes one of the modern age victory conditions first. The strategies that are optimal in a full campaign would therefore prioritize only building an empire that can scale into a victory in the modern age, while the strategies that are optimal in a single age game will be more short-sighted and focused on cheesing the legacy paths, without any regard for long-term development. This variety will help to keep the game fresh. Another advantage of the ages is that they add the potential for more community game modes and modded win conditions. For instance, a classic game mode that's been modded into many RTS games is King of the Hill, where players earn points for controlling a centralized objective for as long as they can. I can't imagine implementing this game mode in a satisfying way for Civ 6, but it would be easy for modders to implement it in Civ 7. Simply make it so that the only way to gain legacy points is by controlling a small area in the center of the map, and suddenly we have a fun, interesting new game mode for the community to mess around with. Civ 7 also manages to fix one of the most frustrating aspects of Civ 6 multiplayer, the fact that, beyond the early game, the only players who can compete for victory are those with the highest science. This is because Civ 6 gives players massive military advantages for having better science than their opponents, far more than Civ 7 does. Let me explain. In both Civ 6 and Civ 7, the only thing that matters for damage calculations in combat is the raw difference in the combat strength between the two units. This means that gaining 5 combat strength is always an equivalent increase in damage, regardless of if the units involved have 10 combat strength or 100. The damage calculations are exactly identical between the two games, so a difference of 5 combat strength is exactly equivalent in Civ 6 and Civ 7. Let's imagine it's turn 65 in an online speed multiplayer game in Civ 6. You have 200 science and have just unlocked cuirassiers, while your opponent has 100 science and is still rocking knights. Cuirassiers have 64 combat strength, while knights only have 50. Despite your units only being a single level more advanced, your tech lead has translated into a combat strength differential of 14, which is utterly enormous. In head-to-head combat, the knights will take literally over 3 times as much damage as the cuirassiers. In contrast, tech leads in Civ 7 give relatively minor combat advantages. Take the Exploration Age cavalry units, for instance. A player could have no science per turn whatsoever, and they'd still have access to the most basic starting cavalry unit of the Exploration Age, the Courser, which has 40 combat strength. If their neighbor has every single technology in the entire tree unlocked, their best unit will still only be a Lancer, which has 50 combat strength. Now, a 10 combat strength difference is nothing to scoff at, but it's not unwinnable. The player with less advanced technology could easily make up that difference by playing a civilization or leader with built-in combat strength bonuses. The days of Civ 6 where players could throw up their hands and concede the game as soon as they see someone with double the science of everyone else are over. In Civ 7, there's almost always a fighting chance. Another thing I enjoy about Civ 7 is the comeback potential. In Civ 6, losing a city is basically enough to ruin your game outright. This is because, as the game goes along, the time it takes to develop a new city actually increases, because the cost of placing new districts scales based on the number of technologies and civics the player has completed. Another reason losing towns in a legacy point scramble at the end of the Antiquity Age doesn't hurt so bad is because of the implementation of a settlement cap and the bonuses granted to settlements in distant lands. Losing one of your towns in Antiquity actually frees you up to settle another town on a foreign continent at the start of the Exploration Age. Putting as many settlements as possible in distant lands is actually mandatory for completing 2 of the 4 Exploration Age legacy paths. Trust me, if players could abandon some of their towns on their home continent in order to free up their settlement cap and put more towns in distant lands, I think there are some cases where they actually would. In summary, I'm really looking forward to playing some more multiplayer Civ 7 once Firaxis finishes the game. There are a lot of good ideas buried somewhere in there, and I hope that, one day, the game will be fleshed out enough to do those ideas justice. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you want to catch full games of multiplayer Civ live, be sure to follow me at twitch.tv/Herson100. If you want to learn how to play a multiplayer Civ game that actually feels finished, I have a playlist on my channel stepping through the multiplayer meta for Civ 6. That's all for now, Herson signing out.